You're listening to the Live from the Caribbean podcast, the show that brings the stories of island people making a global impact, with your host, Pauline Joseph.
Terry Kura.
Hi. Nice to meet you. Coronavirus ain't stopping this. It's not gonna stop it.
All right. So for those who have not been on LinkedIn, where are you? What have you been doing? Get yourself together. Search for the hashtag LinkedIn Local Jamaica and you will see this individual. But I feel like I wouldn't do justice to introducing who she is. I feel like she needs to do this herself. So
you did not just put me on the spot like that. Oh my
For
God.
those listening in who don't know who you are, which is clearly anybody outside of Jamaica and soon to be, but Barbados, Trinidad, Grenada, Singapore.
Right.
Anyway, let me not do this intro for you. Go on.
Hi everyone. Thank you for having me, Pauline. I am your Jamaican girl. I'm an event host. I'm a mom. I'm a moderator. I'm just your girl next door. I speak from the heart. I'm a truth teller in everything that I say and do, and I really just want to be the change that I want to see.
Okay, so what do you do? Who are you? And from a professional perspective, what do you do if somebody were to ask you?
So from a professional standpoint, event hosting, TV hosting or media, a lot of people always see me in that space. Those are my two very cushiony things. That's what I do professionally.
Right. So where did this all start? Who, what...
It came out of thin air.
So let's start. You know how Golden Girls have, picture this, 1975. You need to picture this.
Right. I had absolutely no clue or desire or passion to get into media or hosting. I didn't even know, this is going to sound stupid, but I didn't know of it even being a career. In all honesty, from I was about 4 or 5, I said I want to be a veterinarian. My mom and my grandma, I grew up seeing pets. They allowed me to bring in strays. I had a pet goat at some point in time. I had a pet pig. And they fostered my love for animals. And even at the age of 8, I remember writing a letter to our Governor General saying, I'm going to, create this space for stray animals and I'm going to take care of them. And I remember him responding to me saying, the world needs people like you and I can't wait to see you do that. So my trajectory, as far as I was concerned, from I was about 4 or 5, was veterinary medicine. Dr. Dolittle, that's what they called me. In high school, I started volunteering at Jamaica Society for the Prevention of Animal. It was obvious. If anybody asked, what is Terry Kura going to be? Everybody who knew me would have said veterinarian. So it was only natural that I got the grades, got the scholarship, did the interview, crossed my fingers, went to Cuba, studied veterinary medicine for 6 years, did it in Spanish, it didn't matter, came home, and the vet board says, eek! Congrats, great to have you home, but we do not accredit students who study veterinary medicine in Cuba. And it was like the biggest slap in my face because all these years I had my blinkers on and I did not see anything to the left or to the right of me. This is what I was going to do. Only studied the sciences, didn't have any fallback subjects. My mother looked at me and said, what are you going to do? We have no money, which is why you had a scholarship in the first place. What are you going to do? Where are you going to go and study? And this is where I tell people all the time that sometimes the biggest disappointments, the biggest boofs, as we would say in the Caribbean, the biggest slaps in your face, when your back is against the wall, you start to dig deep and you start to realize there's so much more that you can offer beside what you even saw for yourself. So fast forward, people start telling me, you have a nice voice. And I'm like, what does a nice voice sound like? My voice is just my voice. And people said, hey, your personality is that of a media person. You ever tried TV? And I just kind of said, okay, why not?
Yeah.
And literally, that is how my career started. I would host an event for free. A friend person asked me to host it. I'd do it. And then people would say, well, you did a great job. We would love for you to host another event. And then I went, so this is a thing. Okay. And so that's where that rejection led to my redirection, where I host I do pretty much anything that I can in media. Anything that people want me to do in media, I can do. And it has extended to hosting locally, regionally, as well as internationally.
So let's step back a bit. When you say scholarship, how did you get to manage to get on a scholarship?
So Cuba has always had a very good relationship with Jamaica, thank God. And over the years, and this is spanning lots of years, I've met students or persons older than myself who went to Cuba 10 years before me, 20 years before me. And so because of this lovely relationship, Cuba offered a certain amount of scholarships to a certain number of careers. And in my year, 2 scholarships for veterinary medicine were available for myself and a guy named Rory. We both went to our interviews on the same day. And when we saw each other in Cuba, that's when we said, oh, you got it! So my year had a contingency of 112 Jamaicans. And this is where we meet Trinis, we meet Grenadians. This is our first time really understanding other cultures within the region. And it was a big melting pot. The Jamaican contingency is always the largest. We're the largest in terms of numbers. But that is where we really had an opportunity to do the strength in numbers as Caribbean people.
Wow.
So people knew, just like how the Africans had their contingency, the Chinese had theirs, even though we had our individual identities, we were Caribbean people, and you don't mess with Caribbean people. We're going to stick together. And so that's how I got the scholarship.
I had no idea there was such a strong tie. Even coming here, someone told me that there are a lot of Jamaicans who are from Cuba.
Absolutely.
Like there's a relationship there.
Absolutely. So some of us, our first friendships with a Caribbean person was in Cuba.
Wow.
To the point where we even had our own independence celebration. So everyone knew Jamaica would have the Congress, Antigua, Grenada, Trinidad, the contingencies all came together and we supported each other's independence days. Absolutely.
So let's go even further back. So
Girl, you dated me. Girl!
We didn't say a year. We just said let's go back. So what where is the influence there in terms of you have your mom, you grew up with your mom,
Grandma.
the siblings,
Grandma. I'm an only child.
Okay.
Which, depending on who you ask, is a great thing, or they say no, one child is no child. Such disrespect. I grew up in a matriarchal home. Grandma was the head of the household. And Grandma, God bless her heart, when my mom just got her real big job as a flight attendant at Air Jamaica, my grandmother said she would quit her job to stay home so that she could raise me. And in that period of time, in terms of that early childhood period, I remember my grandma putting me on the veranda to study, using the abacus, numbers and reading and writing. And I remember a particular neighbor passing and saying, Mrs. Scott, you look like you're trying to raise a white person.
What the?
Yeah, man. The person passed and saw me using my knife and fork in between my teachings that she would give me. And the remark was pretty much like, it's like a white people thing you're trying to do. But she had a dream.
Yeah.
And she had a vision. And everything that she did and everything that I am is my grandma. I grew up to see my mother work hard, so I knew what working hard looks like and earning money looks like. But Grandma was the one who instilled my core values. She's the one who carved me out in this world, and I am who I am today because of her. And so I've never been fearful. Men do not intimidate me in any space because I do not know what patriarchy looks like. I did not experience patriarchy. In my home, if a light needed to be fixed, I fixed it. If I needed to go on the roof, I went on the roof. So, I've heard people say, men should be in the household, and I'm not here to dispute that. And that's an argument that I'm not going to get into. But I can tell you that when I speak to my friends who did grow up in households with men, they have different perspectives and different personalities. So I grew up seeing women do everything. So there's nothing, and no reference point for me to think otherwise.
It's interesting that there's a similar perspective of being white because there's a saying we have as being an Oreo. And for me, growing up in both Trinidad and Barbados, I always had to change my vernacular for people to understand me, to the point where I spoke that anybody could understand me. Right. So a lot of people will say, but you don't have a Trinidad accent, right? And it's funny because Bajans see me and they're like, well, use a Trini.
Use a Trini.
Right? So, but I grew up with my mom and sometimes my dad where it was important to read. It was important to not come back speaking colloquial, which in general is an argument that people have. Argument. Oh my God. Just like, that's a whole argument on its own. But it's interesting that there's that culture of being educated is considered being white.
Absolutely. Because anything that's better is being white. That's really what you're telling me. You are telling me that because I understand etiquette or that I'm learning etiquette, that means that it is out of my league, then somehow it has to be white, therefore it can't be me. That's essentially what you're telling me. And it does come back from the colonial days. But you see, my grandma say, you can say anything you want to say, which is the personality I have. Your opinion about me is not my problem.
Yeah.
What your view and perspective is has nothing to do with me. And so because I saw her practicing and preaching that, that is just a part of my personality. And it doesn't matter who you are or what role or title you have. I am simply not intimidated because I don't know what that is like.
Pauline here to let you know about Microsoft 365. As a small business owner, rent expense could be ridiculous for your bottom line. You need to understand what a cloud solution can do for your business. Not only does it reduce your cost, but it actually allows you to track the productivity levels of your team members. So go Microsoft 365. Trust me. So do you think because of that absence of male figure, because I can only imagine how this podcast is going to blow up.
Sorry! In advance!
And this is so way off like my whole structure, but that's fine because I appreciate these conversations. Do you think that intimidates the men in your life? Like how does that affect you with that?
Are we going to talk about dating? Is this what this podcast is gonna be? All right. So earlier I said that I'm the girl next door.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm extremely approachable. I think so, and everybody says I am. However, I do find that Caribbean men, and there are many who are going to disagree. But if they really want to be honest, they'll agree with me. A lot of men will tell you, no, we're not intimidated by strong women. We want our women to be strong and educated and exposed and experienced, and we want them to know themselves. And it's an idea that they love, because a woman like that is a good woman to have on your arm. She's not flighty and doing all sorts of things. She knows what she's about, and she's probably going to be the one to say, hey, I don't think that is wise, and I don't think it's wise because of XYZ. The idea sounds great until they actually confront it. Because it becomes I don't want you to challenge me. Like, I want you to be smart, but not too smart, not smarter than me. I want you to be strong, but I don't want you to be stronger than me. And it isn't that I have a problem to yielding. I don't have a problem to, yielding to a king once I've established that he's a king. But generally speaking, I find Caribbean men have a very hard time dealing with that person as a partner. And it becomes this power struggle, and compromise becomes conform. And it's usually for the woman. And nothing is harder than someone who's very strong and very strong-willed and knows what she's about to now compromise to the point of conformation. It becomes too difficult. Some of us become broken spirits, and we just occupy the space, to live a peaceful life. And some of us realize we're not meant to be cage birds. So luckily, my partner understands me very well, and he lights my flame rather than trying to out it. He does not see me as a competitor, but he is excited at my potential, and he's there to say, yo, lick shot, you can do so much more. And I think that is who we need. We don't need people telling us, well, you're occupying too much space, small up yourself. And that's quite frankly, what a lot of men do.
So do you see this translating from a professional perspective because of that?
Oh, this podcast is gonna be lit.
Because this is an ongoing argument I have with my female friends. They're of the opinion that we just need to keep on going, knock on doors, get it done.
Break those ceilings.
Yeah, which I agree with. I'm never not going to be an entrepreneur. But the recognition that there is this clearly misogynistic understanding of what it's like to be a professional and these are the people that are making the decisions. So I want to understand your point of view as it relates to where do you see that affecting your professional career?
Right. So oh God has been so good to me. He's covered me in so many different ways. So I've been lucky and blessed, maybe that's the word I'm looking for, to straddle the professional space without misogynistic experiences. I've been blessed enough I've had male bosses, and to tell you the truth, I've been able, and I don't know if this is my brand voice, my brand identity, I don't know if it is what they saw, but I think sometimes men are going to try to treat you a certain way, whether it's professionally or personally, based on their own exposure and experience, the fact that they're ignorant and they don't know any better. And some tend to see what them can get away with. Some test the waters. And what I've realized is that when they do come up against people who they realize that it just doesn't make any sense. Like, dude, it's not going to make any sense. You know what? They don't. They get down to what the business is about and they keep it moving. So my experience might be very different in comparison to other women, but I never experienced that. What I'll tell you is I've experienced persons maybe in the audience. So it's never been my boss, or it's never been somebody who I've worked with or worked for. It will be a random person who might come up and say, oh, you're so beautiful. And you go, thanks, thank you very much. Like, you take the compliment, it's very nice of you, and you don't register it, it just goes off. And then it's like, yeah, I couldn't help but look at you because you're so beautiful. And it's like, okay, cool. And then I might say something like, well, I also hope that, the things that were actually coming out of my mouth resonated. Yeah, but I've had 2 instances like that. But again, the moment they realize that it's not going to go anywhere, they stop. Because I will say, yeah, this is not working out. Have a good night. And that's it.
Somebody needs to create a book for Caribbean men about what it means to have a conversation with a woman. Because I was told yesterday, you have nice skin. And it's like, okay, thanks. Yeah. And then it was a continuous conversation. He needed to identify why he had to identify my skin. Because I also, maybe I'm in a stage of feminism that people don't agree with, but you have to go the extreme to come back to some form of normality. Where it's like, why you have to point out something physical?
Because it has worked forever. It has worked forever. And we played a part in that. And we play a part in that. Because we've been taught, whether subtly or not, directly or indirectly, we've been taught to not challenge. Be pleasant, be polite, be personable. So we've had instances, and I'm sure if you ask women, they've had these awkward instances where men want to put their hand on the lower part of your back while passing you. You don't put your hand on the lower part of a man when you're passing him, but you want to do it to a woman, and guess what we do? We don't say anything. We kind of have an awkward smile. We kind of try to shift politely because we do not want to offend, although we are the ones being offended. So guess what happens? Over a period of time, they realize that they're getting away with it. So they're going to continue to do it. And it's because, I'll be very honest, now more and more women are coming out. When you look at the Me Too movement, you have men joking around saying, boy, I'd hug you, but I don't want you to say sexual harassment. Well, it's good. It's good.
Yes.
And if you would rather keep your hands off, it means that your hands should not have been on me in the first place. But when we start putting them in their place, that is when they might alter their behavior.
Yeah.
But then we also know that a lot of the time we're not at the top of the totem pole. And this is where the whole power, authority, and control comes in. If you decide that you're going to style him, as we would say.
What does that mean for those who don't know what that means?
Style mean, if you tell him, if you put a man in his place, or if you put somebody in their place, they're going to take it as an offense. You're styling me. If that person holds the power, the authority, and the control, that person could fire you. You could lose your livelihood. And I think that's one of the reasons why women have stayed quiet as well. Stay polite, keep it okay, because my job depends on it. My professional, life depends on it. But the more you become independent, the more you become your own brand, which is why I tell all women I cross, I don't care who you're working for. Make sure you also have your brand for yourself. So if somebody crosses you, disrespects you, offends you, or insults you in a manner that this cannot be repaired, when you leave that job, you leave with a name of your own. And you don't have to be general manager. You could be the receptionist for all I care. And until we get a handle on that, it becomes a dancing thing between who has the control and who doesn't.
So what advice would you give somebody who feels like they can't, it's almost like they're feeling between a rock and a hard place where you want to move from where you are, but you have your dependents, you may be a mother of two, you may be a single mother.
Keep looking.
And you're in a really hard place job-wise, you want to move, but you also don't see yourself building a brand. What would you tell that person?
First of all, I'd ask them, why don't you see yourself building your brand? So I just got a message from someone saying that there's a girl who hates her job. Her friend hates her job, does not want to be at that job, has a brand, has a skill that she could go off and do her own thing, but she's fearful.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it's fear of failure. That's really what a lot of people...
Yes.
And I just asked one thing. I said, well, does she expect to keep on sitting down and complaining and expecting a different result? No. So if you're already telling yourself that you don't want to build a brand, you can't build a brand, you won't build a brand, then what you're basically telling yourself is stay and put up with whatever.
Yeah.
Don't complain about it because you're not doing anything to change your circumstance.
Yeah.
So what I would tell somebody is everybody's a brand. Before Justin Bieber and Beyonce and all of these people were the names that they are now, when you look back at where they're starting from, they were nobodies. But that's a lie. We're all brands, but we are what we make ourselves. So while you're in the job that you hate, or you're in the job where your manager drives you crazy, or you're in a job where people are sabotaging you, and you know all of this, you build. You're working on that resume, You're continuing to do other interviews. Don't sit down, put all your eggs in this one basket when you know that you do not want to stay here. You have no intentions of staying here. Well, you have to show out. You have to do something for yourself. So when I was at the Gleaner, I was comfortable. I was okay, but I was building my brand. I wasn't posting only about the Gleaner. I was posting things that I was passionate about. What's my personality? What's my independence of the Gleaner? That when I decided to leave, I had already cultivated a community. I already started showing people what my skills are. And I did it by using social media. It wasn't saying book me, but people were seeing me stand on my own outside of the company that I worked for. And then even I, with my large community, said, Jano, I could step out and I could fail. But what if I step out and I actually succeed? I won't know the answer unless I do it. Did it 2 years ago. Never looked back. And I have no regrets. But I have to bet on myself. Nobody not gonna do it for me.
Yeah. That's some real Tony Robbins kind of shit. So, I mean...
I received that.
I mean, it's positive. It's positive. All right. So we talking nothing about business and professional space. Yeah, boy. Whew. What do you do for fun?
Wait, I was going to say, and women, you know, because we have to talk about the women as well.
Go on.
Can't just talk about the men because they're not all bad guys. Guys, we love you.
We do.
For women, what I'm seeing more in the space are women who are collaborating. Like what we're doing here, we're collaborating.
Yeah.
So I think we need to kind of dispel the whole idea, the notion that women are just out to get you. You know, because if we continue thinking like that, then literally, probably you'll always be working by yourself for yourself.
You know, it's funny you say that because we had an event I shared with you, Stop Talking About My Uterus, a conversation about women in leadership. And I mean, the title was obviously for shock factor, but it was what it was. And that came up in the audience conversation because she was very adamant. One of the audience members said, you know, women don't look out for women.
It's not true.
I'm going to be very honest and tell you, growing up, I thought that. And
because we're all fed the same thing.
So it comes from some place that I'm not going to say right now where, but I did grow up with it being instilled in my head. And I was of that opinion. And I went through... I mean, growing up with 4 brothers too, you know, I was like always seeing, like,
boys make
like
better
me.
friends.
Yeah.
Better
exactly,
people, better
right?
humans.
And I'm going to be honest, like, if it wasn't for women, when I was in hockey, when I moved back from Barbados to Trinidad after school, my parents had 6 children without a plan. So there were days that I didn't eat, right?
Go parents.
So there were days when, you know, it was a struggle. And if it wasn't for the group of women in my hockey club, my brothers and sister and I would not eat. Absolutely. And they came and they knocked at the door. I never asked. And they heard and whatever. And they kind of, you know, and from there I understood that I just needed to find the right tribe. And the more I was open to the idea of collaborating with women,
is the more you attracted them.
The more it came in, you know. And we ourselves, I mean, I've had negative experiences with women. It happens across. And
you can have negative experiences with people because people are people.
Exactly. So it's this perception, which is a Caribbean thing. I'm realizing, well, maybe it's a Black people thing because I'm seeing that shift in Black women magic and helping each other. And I think we need to talk about it more.
Yeah, for sure. And my biggest supporters are women, and the biggest motivators and the ones who say, "Come on, you can do more. You can do." Are women, but you also have to be a supportive woman.
Yes.
To attract that kind of tribe.
Yes.
Because if you're bitter and you're not going to be in the right spaces to identify the right people or to surround yourself with the right people. Now, in the same breath, if you are that woman who, you know, you might be the only one at the table. You guys know the table that I'm talking about. You're at the table and you're the only woman. There's some women who revel in the fact that they are, in fact, the only woman at that table. And, you know, all I'm saying is, if you're good at what you do, if you are truly good at what you do, then it don't matter if them put you around 50 women. You are always going to hold your own.
Yes.
So don't be threatened by that. You will realize that if you reach out and you pull another woman who you see can add value, it will only help to make you stand even stronger. You look even better. You pull other people with you. It's not cool being the only person there if you're not pulling other people behind you. So if you are that woman, trust in your abilities. Trust in your competency and understand that if you're bringing in other people, make sure you're identifying good people who can do the work and bring them along on the journey. Because I promise you, that journey will be so much nicer when you have a tribe coming with you.
And it's time for us to start making decisions. Men are already doing it for years. Let's get in the mix.
Collaborate. No need for competition.
Yeah,
collaborate.
Exactly. Pauline here to let you know about AC Marketing. I had done this really cool copywriting to let you know all the fantastic things we do, but I don't think you care. So I just doing this for my accountant. So it's done as a marketing expense because we are paying for this podcast. So yeah, if you care about AC Marketing, go to acmarketingcaribbean.com. If not, just keep listening to the podcast. Thanks, sir. off this heavy topic.
Okay.
And talk about 𝐶𝐬𝐶𝐿 for fun. What do you do for fun?
boy.
What is it? Are you going to the beach? Are you going... What do you do?
I told you earlier that I was an introvert, and you were like, shut up, you're not. So for fun, I actually like being in. If I can, I'm usually either traveling the island, which I love to do. I'm a total dryland tourist. Love finding and unearthing gems and hidden places in Jamaica that I can just totally get away from it because I'm usually connected. I'm always connected online. I'm always connected with my online community. I'm always hosting events with people around me. And so what I tend to do is retreat. That's what I do for fun. And I usually, with my people know that my relationship with my daughter is very important to me. I'm very involved. So we can be found doing projects and painting and building things and just doing anything that will help to enhance our relationship. The beach, the river, anything that has nature in there, I'm there. I'm more likely to go to a line with a few friends rather than a party. And I will definitely do stage shows.
What's a stage show?
What? Concerts.
Oh, that's...
And preferably, yeah, but we call it stage show because, we don't say live concert, we say stage show in Jamaica. So you will see me at Rebel Salute with my flag, my Sizzler flag and my Capleton.
Okay.
You will see me in a state of euphoria if you catch me at a live concert. For sure.
So what is it? Because coming from, growing up in Barbados, everything was 5 minutes. Living in Trinidad and I'm working from home, everything in front of the computer. So the idea of where I'm going tomorrow, which is 𝐶𝐬𝐶𝐞.
Nice, that's not too far.
𝐶𝐬𝐶𝐞. And it's like an hour. Oh my goodness, I forget how big Jamaica is.
Yeah, and that's close. I'm just like, you chose somewhere that's... close, you're not wearing the grill.
No, at all.
Say best.
What is the one thing you will tell a Caribbean person listening to this? Some place in Jamaica that you wouldn't necessarily see advertised from a tourist perspective. Where would they need to go?
Portland.
Okay.
Portland is the prettiest parish. I come from St. Catherine, big up all the other parishes, don't want to offend anybody. But if you want to go where the foliage is absolutely lush and the water has a color that you do not find anywhere else on this island. It's the place where you go to get your Boston jerk, which they'll tell you is the best jerk in Jamaica. The Blue Lagoon where the famous movie was made. It's not a joke. When you look at Portland, you kind of feel like you've just walked into a painting. It can't be this perfect. And it's because it's one of the most untouched parishes, if not the most untouched parish in Jamaica. So when you go out there, the water is beautiful. You are rafting and everything is green. Right now, the screensaver on my phone is actually from Blue Lagoon. So I would say go to Portland, and if you're staying over, go to the Canopy House. Tree houses in the canopy of the trees. You can't see it. You can see the lagoon, but everyone who's on the lagoon cannot see you. There are no curtains, and you can see straight out into the trees, and it is the most beautiful getaway place, and it is my favorite getaway place in Jamaica.
Well, barring this coronavirus, I will.
The food is very good there too. The food is very good there as well. So I'd say Portland.
All right, cool. So let's head back to professional 𝐶𝐬𝐶𝐞, right? So let's go to, let's say somebody just found you on LinkedIn and they're inspired by you, want to become, as clearly what happened like half an hour ago, because you have a lot of folks out there. What is, because you're now an entrepreneur, right?
Yeah.
You consider
standing on my own, yeah.
Okay.
Still working it out, still learning, as you said, processes and things that you're kind of bumping and stumbling into. You're like, oh yeah, this is important, isn't it? Yeah, totally.
So what are your learnings from a cash perspective, like making money, being an entrepreneur? Like, how's that working for you? Because people see, they confuse likes for money. And they assume that, oh my God, you must be rolling in it. Which is neither here nor there. It's like understanding that process that you're in right now.
Right. I'm happy that you use the term process, because a lot of people see the destination, but they don't see where the start line was. And they certainly don't understand how long you've been practicing for this one race. So, I like to use the Usain Bolt example where, he bust up that race in 9.58, and he did it in the blink of an eye. But let's talk about all the training, all the early morning, all the late night, the gym work, the punches, the doctor's visits, the coaches. When you think about all that he put into just that 9.58 seconds, which is just the victory, and everybody saw that, you really understand that being an entrepreneur, being a professional, whether you're working for yourself or you're working for someone, it is not all about the victory. It's not all about the finish line, but it's where you start. And how you trust that process. So the things that I've learned most is that if you do not take your brand seriously, if you do not take your talent or your skill or your value or whatever it is you're bringing to the table seriously, do not expect anybody else to do it for you. If you are asked a question and you kind of say, well, I'm just trying something, I have a little business, may I do a little thing? Then understand that people are gonna say and treat your business like a little thing. And it doesn't matter if your business is in its first year, third year, or fifth year. If this is what you know, this is your industry, and you're carving out a space in that industry, then you have to step out with a level of confidence, or nobody's gonna have the confidence in you. And those are things I realized. When I step out and I do an event, I know confidently I am going to deliver at that event, to the point that when I leave, I'm probably already booking another event by the time I leave that space. And it's because whatever I exude is already speaking on my behalf. So I think that is one of the biggest learnings or teachings. Something else I've learned is negotiation is always good when you start out. When nobody knows who you are, or when nobody knows what you are capable of, you have to kind of foster relationships, which means sometimes you can't go at the top of what you think you should be paid. You kind of start low because you need to get your foot in the door. Here's the catch though. There comes a point in time when you assess what you do now. You assess what's the value of what you do now. Who are you servicing? What industry are you servicing? Do you realize that now a certain level or caliber of persons are coming to you and entrusting you with a particular service? Then boo, at some point in time, the 1 foot in, 1 foot out, I give you 50% off, I give you 10% off, maybe I do it for free. Those things go out the door. Your value and your cost are no longer up for negotiation unless that's what you want to do. And I think that is one of the biggest things, because nobody teaches you how to do that. You don't want to discuss cost. You don't know if the cost that you tell somebody, oh God, this is going to be a lot. I really think I should charge them A, but they're going to come back with B, and suppose them go with somebody else, and maybe it's going, we will talk ourselves out of the cost that we read, or the value that we really bring. And so I think at this point in time, what needs to happen is you have to keep on assessing your business, keep on assessing your service, and then this is your cost. It's either you can afford me or you cannot afford me. Some clients you'll have to walk away from, and you have to understand within yourself that it's okay. You can't win them all. And will some people say you're too expensive? Maybe they will. But if they give me the opportunity, and if they know what I've been doing, they know that I will deliver. And I think that is probably the biggest lesson I've learned on my own.
I think what's unique with you, and this is me going into my marketing mode as well, is, I mean, you could throw this in your portfolio. You actually have a following. So your following is even of more value to somebody who hires you. Because not only are they getting your services, but they're getting brand your equity, audience.
For sure.
Right? And I don't know if it's similar in your industry in Jamaica, but I feel like in the Caribbean, our businesses tend to hold on to information.
Oh, God, yes.
So we don't like to share, whereas you have these big businesses in the tech world sharing technology, sharing information for the betterment of the industry.
Oh, sure.
But we, like...
building audiences and loyalty and communities.
We, like for me, in my space, digital marketing across the Caribbean, we tend to hold on to information. We tend to treat it like this thing that gives us some sort of competitive advantage, but at the same time it's suffering because you have all these hustlers who are being taken advantage of, and then you have the people who are charging 1,000% more, but
monopoly,
right? So how is that in your space?
I think my space as a personal brand. I think I've seen things do better. I think people share a lot of information. I think where you will see the withholding of information is when it comes to influencer marketing, where everyone recognizes who are the influencers in the space, but nobody wants to talk about, well, how much do you charge? So you have some people who enter the space and now they're being approached by corporate Jamaica and they're just like, okay, so how much should I charge? You know, you just don't know. It's similar to when I entered into the event hosting space. I didn't have a point of reference. How much do I charge? So I started charging very low until I realized what my value was, and then I quickly switched out. It's the same thing. So I think in influencer marketing, a lot of people hold on information in terms of what price they should negotiate. For me personally, I'm an open book. People ask me anything, I'll be very honest with them. So I'll have people send me messages saying, I want to pitch something, I want to go to contract. Well, how much do you think I should charge? And I will ask them questions like, I'm almost like a consultant, I was
about to say, you need to start a workshop.
Yeah, and it's a lot. I get a lot of these questions.
Girl, start a workshop at Regis.
Right, so, I do this, I do that, I have this, they want me to do this, I'm asking them for the scope, and I'm like, listen, if they ask you for this much, they're actually going to really want you to do this much. So you have to plan with that contingency. So don't charge them this amount and don't give yourself room. These are conversations that people don't readily have. And so I realize when I give information, people go off, it works out for them, they come back and they tell me, oh, it worked out. Great, awesome. That person now becomes a huge part of my community. And whenever they go and they speak about me, or if I'm they're in a room, they're going to speak of me highly. It does not take anything away from me.
I can relate. My roommate he and I always have this conversation about what value in terms of like giving things for free, because I'm so passionate about it. He's like, why you keep doing this? Like people are not paying you. I was just like, I can't help it, because if you ask me, I'm going to tell you, and I'm going to dissect everything, because it's who I am,
It comes back though. I can tell you, each time I have said, here, you give somebody the olive branch, I've always told people this, it comes back 2 times fold. So to every free information you give out, you get 3 more opportunities where you make money. Okay, great. You can't live in this world individualized, and you have to realize that I am where I am because somebody gave me an opportunity.
Yes.
We all kind of have this idea that we're all self-made. I just woke up like this. I just made myself like this. It doesn't work that way. Every single person in this world who is anybody got an opportunity because somebody said, let me give you a boost. Let me make you sit down in the room with these people. We all got assistance in some way, shape, or form. So don't know when you get to a certain level, behave like you did this all on your own, which is why I believe in the power of giving back. You must give back, and you must send that elevator back down, if it's even for one person. If you can change a life with advice for one person, you're already ahead.
Yeah.
Everybody got a boost or a boost from somebody else. So why you find it so hard to do it for somebody else? That's rubbish.
Hey
are you a small business owner? It's Pauline here. I'm sure you and I can exchange some notes on all the struggles that exist within the entrepreneurship journey in the Caribbean. But one of the things I need to tell you about is Regis. They've been an amazing partner with the LinkedIn local community, and they have a suite of products that's applicable to you. Not only do they have a space, an office space, because post the C word, we're all going to want to interact with somebody, but they also have the option for you to have a mailing address. So check them out. Google Regis Caribbean. They have locations in Trinidad, Barbados, Jamaica, and Guyana. Tell them Pauline sent. So we're going to Caribbean now. We're going to talk about the Caribbean. During between there, we'll split in some ads. So I always have this, I guess I grew up with seeing both islands and I have this dream that my business will be purely in Caribbean culture, but it's not ready to pay me yet. So I'll get there. But from a CARICOM perspective, you understand this, you travel the different islands, you've seen the effects of, jumping and experiencing somebody right around the corner and having that appreciation for it.
Right.
I feel like the word CARICOM is just like, it's not really utilized as it should. So I have a question to put out from a hypothetical perspective. If you were head of CARICOM tomorrow.
Well, damn, really? That's where you're going? This is like a Miss World question. Damn!
Which
I
means
wasn't ready.
You are prepped and ready.
Oh, Lord, let me
right?
shift in the seat. Go.
If you were head of the CARICOM tomorrow, what would be the first thing you would implement? Yeah, girl.
You couldn't email me that question so I could have at least gone and Googled some stuff.
Nah, man, this is coming pure out of you experiencing what you've experienced.
Here's the thing, and it's probably going to sound so basic. I'm so sorry that I don't have some verbose answer. What I realize is that as much as we do have CARICOM, we still do not know each other. I had the opportunity to go to Grenada. Oh my goodness, such a beautiful island. I saw so much, learned so much. The people were so sweet. We passing through areas, people pushing them plate through the bus and saying, try this, man, you like it? All right. And they're going in their kitchen, cooking more food to give it to you. And I'm just like, Grenada, I didn't know this. I knew you were the Spice Island, whatever the Spice Island means. But I didn't know you were so nice. And I think all of us, as much as CARICOM kind of gives you this false sense of togetherness, I really don't feel it. I think everybody's in its own space. We only seem to acknowledge our culture, and we might acknowledge other cultures because we might have a friend or a boyfriend or a husband, a partner that comes from a different island. Then, there's some sort of integration there. But other than that, we don't know each other. We do not appreciate or know each other. And so I don't know how I would make it happen, but I would want there to be more meetings of the islands, meaning not just you can work here and you can work here, but for there to be a true understanding and appreciation for what each of us are as individual islands, but how much better we could if we really decided to do this together. Other than that, we don't know each other. I know the islands based on my geography, but with each island, if you're too small, I don't know you. Trinidad, yeah, carnival. Outside of Trinidad, what do I know about Trinidad? I had to go to Trinidad to understand the beauty that is Trinidad and Tobago. Outside of that, I don't know Trinidad. Is Trinidad trying to understand me or know me? We're not. And I think that's the biggest problem we have. There is actually no togetherness.
And I think sometimes the best way to solve a complex problem is to have a simple answer.
You think so? I mean, I didn't give you that.
No, to me that I have so many layers to that, and I completely agree, and that's why I keep pushing people to create content because in order for us to know each other, we need to see each other.
We have to.
And we don't, and I keep, every time I have these conversations, because I've been privileged. Like, at the time growing up, I didn't realize I was privileged, because I was like, I've only been to Barbados when I was like 8, and I was like, oh my God, this is so ridiculous.
Yeah, and I mean, even making a conscious decision. So, for example, we are enamored with bigger countries. You know, in Jamaica, we say you have small foreign and you have big foreign. So small foreign is when you come out of your country, but it's still in the area.
Yeah.
You know, Florida not too far. But big foreign is like Europe, Asia, all these exotic places. And, you know, with the help of social media, people are seeing these other places that they want to be able to hashtag, you know, you wish you were me. But one of the conscious decisions I made was to love, which is why I do a lot of traveling in my country, because I cannot love small foreign or big foreign without loving my country first. That's number one. And then I said, you know, it is important for you to actually go and visit these islands, your neighbors. These are in fact your neighbors. And at the end of the day, everybody put us all in one bucket and we're all one Caribbean. So I have made a conscious effort now to actually visit the islands within my region so I can have a better appreciation for what each island has to offer in a very unique way without having to compare to Jamaica. It's not a comparison thing, but it's what do you also add to this pot that we're stirring, you know? And until we get to that level, the islands are just like any other country. We go, maybe we don't go, we don't care. And I think that has to change.
One last question.
I feel like I've answered like 3 million questions.
That's the purpose of a podcast.
Yeah, this is true.
So one last question. What is the most impactful thing in your professional career that comes from your Jamaican upbringing?
What is the most
impactful thing to your career that came from your upbringing in Jamaica?
So my upbringing in Jamaica, and you know, with Jamaicans say it a lot, we lick about with talawa. You'll always hear us say it. We're small, small in number, small in size, but we're loud, we're bold, we're proud. And no matter where you drop a Jamaican, because of the culture, the upbringing, we are going to dominate. It's sorry, not sorry. That's just how we are. But what it is, it's an ingrained an ingrained sense of self and who you are and what you can accomplish. And so my upbringing was, if you want it, it is yours. If you desire it, it will be yours. But you have to go work for it. But not no more than you. And that is something that we say as Jamaicans. Nobody and nothing is better or more than us. And I think professionally, I apply it to everything that I do. So whether it is that I'm being asked to moderate the town hall meeting for the coronavirus with the Ministry of Health and Wellness, or whether I am moderating a digital marketing conference, or I'm doing tech, or I'm, you know, moderating or hosting an event in London for 500 persons from 40 different countries, I will not be intimidated. I will not be overwhelmed. I am in this room and in this space because I am supposed to be. Think rationally, think logically, and do what you're here to do. Deliver, and deliver with excellence. And that is what I do in my personal and my professional life because of my upbringing.
That's it. We're good.
Pauline is like, well, okay.
I mean, you can't end like better than that. So
Thank you.
We're done. That was it.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us this week. Make sure to subscribe in iTunes, Google Podcast, or wherever you listen for your podcasts. Don't forget to join the community at our website, LinkedInLocalCaribbean.com. If you liked this show, you might want to check out our next LinkedIn Local event by following the hashtags on LinkedIn. Search for hashtag LinkedIn Local Caribbean.